All right, everybody. It is happening. It is finally happening. You know that meme that's like when that YouTuber that you hate because they're annoying and stupid finally does something wrong and everybody else hates them too? Like finally does something like morally objectionable to the broad majority of people and now everybody also hates them and you feel like super ahead of the curb? Well, for those of you guys that don't know, I made a video on SunnyV2 2 months ago. It was a video about how there's a lot about his content that strikes me as clickbaity, grifty, dishonest, and just a clear ploy to try to gain relevance, fame, and money on YouTube. He's willing to basically say whatever about anybody, you know, just to push his views out, and that does very well. He gets like millions of views per video. But something I noticed was a lot of his videos either started to get very clickbaity, very politically biased, or very dishonest, right? So for example, one of the videos that really stood out to me that like I just didn't like was the dumbest lottery winners of all time. So the video is called, it's the dumbest lottery winners of all time, and pretty much everybody in the video loses the money that they got from winning the lottery, either willingly from like donating to charity or through getting robbed out of like no fault of their own. Like at one point, the final example of somebody dumb, like one of the dumbest people who's ever won the lottery before that he uses, is some like old guy who was in his 80s who won like $10 million and donated all of it to charity. And he's the final example in the video, the dumbest lottery winners of all time. And then, of course, there's the fact that the person in the thumbnail isn't even in the video. Like, I just... He does that often. He'll use, like, a person who... There's a lot of rumors about them doing a thing in the thumbnail, but then that's actually not the case. Like, for example, he made a video recently called Child Celebrities Who Have Terrible Lives Now. And looking at the thumbnail, you'd get the impression this actress here on the left is the same person here. I come to find out on Twitter, that's a myth that has been debunked for a long time, and none of these people are even in the video at all. This is just dishonest clickbait. That's all it is. And it became very clear to me when I started seeing SunnyV2 trying to find moral failings to blame YouTubers for their, like, downfall and success online. Like, if a YouTuber was once really big, the algorithm fucked them over, and their channel died, he'll make a video about them. But it can't just be, oh, the algorithm fucked them over and that's why their channel died, because, you know, some channels just don't make it because YouTube's system sucks. He has to find a reason. Like, what did this person do that made people hate them? And he will try to create a narrative out of that. It's really something to witness if you actually know the real story behind something he's discussing. And then there's the clear political bias. He recently made a video called The Most Intense Arguments in Joe Rogan History, with Candace Owens and Joe Rogan in the title, and the most awkward moments in Joe Rogan history. They made it very clear, like, where the political leanings are of this guy and, like, what his motivation is. He's just grifting. It's clickbait. It's just tabloid bullshit. One of the things that's very commonly, at least in my opinion, denotative of, like, not a great channel, is when they do this, like, semi-drawn version of somebody in the thumbnail. I think this is a filter. But, like, when people use, like, these filters in their thumbnails, it immediately gives off, like, grifty clickbait vibes. Like, you're literally just putting on this filter to make the person in the thumbnail stand out more than if they weren't, if they didn't have that filter on them, right? It's weird. It feels weird. A lot of channels that are doing the same thing as SunnyV2 as well do that as well. It's weird. It's just clickbaity. It's weird. It just strikes me the wrong way. And I made a video 2 months ago about how I feel like SunnyV2 kind of sucks. But just 2 days ago, in response to Mr. Beast's friend coming out as trans, this person put out a video I haven't seen it before, but YouTube shows it as fully completed because I have it open in another tab. So YouTube says you've watched it. But I haven't seen it yet. This is going to be a blind watch through. But here's the thumbnail. And here's the title. Why Chris will soon be a nightmare for Mr. Beast. For those who don't know, Chris Tyson, goes by any all pronouns, is Mr. Beast's close friend who recently just came out as trans. And there are a bunch of videos online that are in this vein, but SunnyV2's is probably the biggest. For example, there was the, yeah, so there's this YouTuber named Encouraged who does very similar types of videos to SunnyV2, as you can tell, and made a video how Chris became the most hated Mr. Beast member 7 days ago, 1.4 million views, and the thumbnail is transgender. And then why Chris from Mr. Beast became transgender, the real reason. I imagine we're gonna get, I actually know, because I know some of the arguments made in the SunnyV2 video. I know that we're going to get the same arguments in the SunnyV2 video, so we're going to watch that instead. But people have been going off on this video. In fact, one of the responses to it from this account called Raylolin was, this new SunnyV2 video feels really invasive for all the wrong reasons. Like, why did you make this? You delve into the man's marriage and shit. It's just really off-putting and unnecessary. Mr. Beast then replies, the Giga Chad, saying, yeah, this is getting absurd. Chris isn't my nightmare. He's my fucking friend, and things are fine. All this transphobia is starting to piss me off. Mr. Beast hunts 1,000 transphobes? Hi, Echo Rules. Welcome. So Mr. Beast drops this based-ass take, and the copium... So there were two copium responses the right had to it, because the rights, quickly realize, holy shit, we're losing Mr. Beast on this issue? We can't do that. That's, like, it's over. It's over if the right loses Mr. Beast on the trans issue. If Mr. Beast doesn't think all trans people are pedophiles, the right is not in a good place. So basically, the right's immediate copium was to say, oh shit, Mr. Beast called Chris he. Now, some of the people are, like, sort of doing concern trolling, saying, Mr. Beast, you called your trans friend he. Clearly they go by she or they pronouns. You're being transphobic. Chris Tyson publicly goes by any all pronouns on their Twitter. But, it's also the Nazis that are trying to cope about it, like Mr. Beast is still on their side. So for those that don't know, this is E:R, or just ER is what most people know him as. He's an anime review YouTuber. He does some other animation, like Western animation stuff, but he's also a Nazi. He's got a very, very big channel. He got shouted out by PewDiePie back in the day, and it caused a bunch of drama. But in a lot of videos, he likes to JQ and do, like, alt-right and Nazi dog whistles. For example, he did, in his Death Note review, which he's referencing right here. In his Death Note review, he used the example of Heather Heyer, who was murdered by a neo-Nazi at the Charlottesville rally, as an example of how the Death Note couldn't work. He says, yes, if you write someone's name into the Death Note and you want them to be hit by a car, but they're in a crowd of people and it's impossible for them to get hit by a car, they'll just die of a heart attack instead. And meanwhile, he's showing footage of, like, the car barreling through the crowd at Charlottesville, the same car barreling through the crowd that murdered, Heather Heyer. Like, it's literally on video, Heather Heyer being, like, run over and her, like, 3 feet in the air off the hood of the car. But the right's response was, oh no, she just died of a heart attack because she's fat. She wasn't hit by a Nazi who drove his car through a crowd and got convicted for it. She just had a heart attack because she's fat. Remember, guys, fat phobia and Nazism, they do tie in together pretty tight. Surprisingly, lots of types of phobia come together pretty tight. Anyway, ER guy's a Nazi. He says, he's. You know he was absolutely bum-rushed with replies pointing this out within milliseconds of posting. He could have edited it. He chose not to. And, like, the smiling, like, devious, evil light image from Death Note. So you got, like, the Nazi YouTuber who's, like, coping, like, yes, he knew. He is one of us. He's still one of us. Meanwhile, like, Chris Tyson literally goes by any all pronouns. Anyway, so the right is absolutely coping over this, but let's go ahead and check out the video itself. I'm sure it's good. Is it eugenics? I haven't even watched Mr. Beast still, just this video. Oh, you should definitely check out some of Mr. Beast's stuff. There's some pretty good videos he's done. Just out of, like, the sheer ability that he has to spend lots of money on, like, dumb video ideas, there's some fun concepts he's done that are worth watching. Even if you're not, like, a Mr. Beast fan, you find his content, like, boring or you find him annoying, some of the concepts he's able to pull off just because he has the funds to for videos are just cool to see. Just as simple as that.
The Chris Tyson situation could become a complete disaster for Mr. Beast's brand. However, it may...
Oh, I should mention, by the way, as of earlier this year, Mr. Beast is the biggest YouTuber. He is bigger than PewDiePie. He is bigger than T-Series, I believe. He is the biggest YouTuber. He is #1, period. He is the guy. He is the new PewDiePie. He is, like, dethroned PewDiePie. He's the biggest YouTuber, period. The idea that, like, pretty much anything aside from, like, getting exposed for, like, grooming a kid or something could take down Mr. Beast at this point is, kind of wishful thinking, you know? XQC had good takes. He was like, YouTubers who don't live stream are super awkward. Yeah, I think XQC can sometimes have good takes, but lately he's gotten kind of cringe. I hope he's not like... There's some people who think that maybe, like, XQC's recent divorce and his, like, getting into Andrew Tate and following him are connected, and I do think there might be some merit to that, but I've also seen him recently argue against transphobia on Twitter, so he might still be... I think XQC is probably in a pretty vulnerable place politically right now, and it kind of worries me that someone that influential and large is, like, actively teetering on the edge, from what I can tell.
It also provides some unique benefits. So let's begin by going over the drama before explaining exactly how this will impact the Mr. Beast channel.
So remember, guys, as I mentioned before, this guy's entire mindset is that if someone is successful on YouTube, they must be a good person who's doing things right. If they're unsuccessful on YouTube, then they must be a bad person doing things wrong. And if they were once successful and are no longer successful, they must have been good once, but then did something horrible that justifies their content, like, not doing as well anymore. Hey, Raincloud, what's up? Drama, this dude's entire way of speaking is annoying as fuck. It really is. You know his accent's fake, right? I watched his older videos. His accent was a normal accent in his older content. Now he purposefully over-exaggerates it. He said Twitter at one point when he literally used to say Twitter. Like, he literally just used to say Twitter. And now he says Twitter to, like, heavily exaggerate the British accent. Or Australian. I think this is an Australian accent. I can't tell. It sounds a little Australian to me. He's like... The W8 Warhammer 40k. Sorry, I'm bad with acronyms. Dude that has the fake ass accent as well. Arch Warhammer, who does the fake tongue rolling. I think Arch Warhammer's German and fakes a, like, super posh tongue rolly British accent. Yeah, it's just like that.
Mid-2022, fans began to notice that Chris Tyson was changing. In the early days, he represented the quintessential southern gun and truck loving dude. Yet beginning in March 2020.
Okay. I just do think it's really funny that like, literally the day before yesterday, I went shooting, and two of the guns that most of the guns that I shot yesterday belonged to trans women. Like, there's nothing about being on the left, there's nothing about being leftist, particularly, that necessitates being anti-gun. In fact, most leftists do tend to be pro-gun. I mean, didn't Marx say... under no circumstances should the working class be disarmed. Any attempt to disarm the working class must be frustrated by force if necessary. Is that the line? I think I got it right. Yeah.
2022, Chris began to display increasingly feminine traits, making tweets such as, "I finally got my nails done at a nail tech." Additionally, Chris would highlight that his facial appearance had changed significantly since the start of the pandemic, which accompanied another post.
I love so if you haven't seen a SunnyV2 video, then this might sound really strange to you, but, like, every one of his videos is like this, where it's, like, super, you can see there's the vignette. Do you see the vignette around the corners? That's called a vignette, when you darken the corners of the screen to add a sort of like ominous effect, and he's playing like the true crime documentary music while just talking about people online noticing somebody transitioning. I would shoot myself in the butt, so just not a gun for me. Yeah, I mean, I definitely recommend going shooting once in your life, because it's definitely, like... I think that everybody should shoot a gun once in their life, if they are physically capable of it. Just to experience it. 1 round. Just 1 round, fire it, feel what it's like. Most people will want to fire more than 1 round after they fire the first one, but even if you're afraid of guns, I feel like firing 1 round would be really good for the vast majority of, like, political discussion in this country. There was a, oh no, oh god. I hate to agree with gun YouTubers on things, but I watch a lot of gun content, and these gun YouTubers tend to be really right-wing, but they did make a pretty good point, where they showed... I was watching a gun YouTuber who was, like, teaching how to, like, use an AR-15, and, like, how to disassemble it, how to put it back together and everything, and at one point, he shows a clip of a journalist from, I think it was CNN, who went to a gun range to fire an AR-15, and then afterwards he said he thinks he might have minor PTSD from firing such an evil weapon of war. And I couldn't defend. That's too much. That's like a level of lib I can't defend or get behind. I just can't. That's too much. That's too soy. That's too unironically fucking soy.
Reading. Okay, so in 4 different customs, I had to prove I was myself because I, quote, look nothing like my passport pic, so much that I'm considering updating my passport. Do you see any resemblance? Prompting replies such as, you went from man to boy. Chris responded by stating, nah, to be honest, I just really started taking my mental health seriously and eating better, yet his Twitter photos kept insinuating that Chris was becoming more feminine.
Who would have thought? A trans person is transitioning and it's making them happier in every part of their life. Better. Oh my god, a trans person transitioning is literally making like almost every aspect of their life better. They're eating better, getting better sleep, their skin's like clearing up, and it's helping their appearance because they're like taking better care of themselves overall, because like something that's clearly been bothering them and weighing on their mental health for a long time is now absent because they're able to live as their true self. Wow, I never would have guessed this was a possibility. It's not like the overwhelming consensus of like data and academic discovery on this issue is unanimously points to the fact that trans people being accepted and getting to live as themselves makes them happier. Wow, who could have possibly seen that coming? What side of the political spectrum has been arguing that trans people tend to be happier when they get to live as their true selves? What side is it? I forget. He's going to find a way to argue this is actually a bad thing, which is going to be really funny.
With this same kind of look showing up in his Mr. Beast appearances. For example, on the 6th of January 2023, Beast Reacts uploaded a video titled I Strapped a GoPro to a Fish, in which Chris dressed in a way that prompted comments such as, Chris has been adopting more and more traits that remind me of my grandmother. Okay, so some people just gonna ignore Chris's nails? Chris had to have lost a bet, the look is getting wild. The response to the video then prompted countless viral TikToks, such as this one with 700,000 likes, stating, how did Chris go from this to this? While others even made the claim that Carl had turned.
So, literally all this is right now is just SunnyV2 arguing that people noticing Chris Tyson being more feminine and living as themselves is like people being mad about that is a bad thing. Is like a sign that Mr. Beast is doing things wrong. Because in SunnyV2's world, I honestly don't even know if SunnyV2 even understands enough about politics to even realize what he's arguing for or saying right now. I genuinely think SunnyV2 is so content creator YouTube brained that he thinks that any action that results in a negative reaction from a YouTuber's audience must be morally wrong because in some way it's impacting their bottom line. Like, this guy literally judges people's moral... like judges people morally based on their YouTube channel performance. I won't spoil something that he talks about. Yeah. I want to be all surprised because I'm watching this the first time, and I want to be blindsided by the stupidity. I like having to think on my feet for these arguments.
Him gay. Now, this was pretty ridiculous as Carl isn't even that feminine, and Chris had come out as bisexual years before he and Carl had even met. The true catalyst for Chris Tyson's feminization instead seemed to have come from his marriage. In January 2000.
Okay, so this is the part where we start delving into Chris's marriage. I've literally seen like statements from Chris, and I believe even Chris's ex-wife, saying that Chris has been like the best parent they've ever been since transitioning. Like, prior to transitioning, Chris, like, wasn't able to devote themselves fully to, like, parenting because something was holding them up. And now that they're, like, living as their true selves, they can focus more on, like, caring about their kid. And like, you know, just taking care of their kid, doing things with their kid. It's, like, not pretending to be someone else anymore, right? And I think that's definitely a very good thing. I've heard people try to argue that, like, oh, well, how's this going to affect the development of the kid? And it's like, who the fuck cares? You people made the same exact argument for how, like, if we allow adults to come out as gay and live as themselves, how is it going to harm, like, kids who one of their parents ends up realizing they're gay and coming out? And, like, it's just, sorry, but, like, sometimes things happen, you know? Maybe if society was more accepting of trans and gay people sooner, this wouldn't have happened. Maybe Chris would have been able to transition years ago, and it wouldn't come up later in life. That's the whole point, right? To make it so that this, you know, treatment, this, you know, gender-affirming care is more accessible to trans people, that acceptance of trans people is more prevalent, because that means trans people are more likely to come out younger rather than later in life. People have such a huge problem with trans people coming out later in life and being, you know, it's such a big change. It's such a big, you know, effect on the lives of everybody around them. But then they get mad about kids being trans and coming out. And it's like, okay, so you clearly just have a problem with anybody being trans. Just anybody. You're just finding any excuse.
2022, Chris would post a photo with his wife to his...
Remember, by the way, these are the people who desperately try to argue. The left is pushing their politics and their worldview onto everybody and just won't let them live their lives away from the woke mind virus. When they say they can't escape the woke mind virus, this is what they mean. Like, oh no, my favorite YouTuber's best friend dared to come out as trans. How dare they shove their woke mind virus down my throat like this? That's what they mean when they say they need to shut it down, the woke mind virus. They need to shut down, or when Matt Walsh outright says transgenderism needs to be burned to the ground. That is not acceptable for even adults to identify as trans. Those are his words at his most recent, like, in real life conference he did.
Instagram, yet after this, the family photo stopped altogether. Fans also noticed that he'd removed his wedding ring, with the ring's absence correlating perfectly with the very first post in which he'd painted his nails. Chris confirmed the split in a post from March 2020.
By the way, for people later in life who transition, this isn't uncommon. Like, people discovering that they aren't the gender they were assigned at birth, like, after they've gotten into a committed relationship, even married or had kids, it happens. Some people just figure it out that late into life, and that's, you know, it has an effect on the people around them, but it happens. And in some cases, when that happens, if they're in a marriage or a relationship already, there is a good chance that the marriage or relationship won't last because maybe the person who they're in a relationship with is straight. You know, like, if Chris Tyson ends up, you know, coming out as a trans woman and Chris Tyson's wife is straight, and not transphobic by the looks of it, then I guess it's kind of reasonable that they might have a amicable separation. And by the looks of it, it is a pretty amicable separation considering that Chris is still, like, in his ex-wife and kid's life pretty, you know, prevalently. So this is so creepy to, like, delve into somebody's personal life like this as justification for your bigotry. It truly is just disgusting. This is just the most extreme version of what SunnyV2 does in every video.
23 reading, "For a little over a year now, me and Katie have been separated, with this also confirming that Chris's transformation began as soon as his marriage came to an end. Chris went from lighting campfires and raising a family with his beautiful wife to now trying to be a wife with his man buns and long nails."
So I do know this part of the video. Apparently SunnyV2 just shows a bunch of like transphobic hate comments and uses them as arguments for why what Mr. Beast has done by being friends with a trans person is wrong. And not only that, but what Chris Tyson has done by transitioning is wrong because it puts pressure on Mr. Beast to get involved in politics. That was the take I was seeing on Twitter that people were making fun of.
As the criticism continued to pile, Chris announced that he'd be taking a break from social media. And while there was a possibility that Chris would make efforts to—
The criticism. Remember, these people call just outright hatred towards your right to exist criticism. And when you are upset about it, they will say, you don't accept criticism. Why are you so against accepting criticism? It's like, your criticism is I shouldn't be able to exist. You know, like, what? Dishonest pieces of shit.
Return to his former self. He'd rather do the opposite and double down on his feminine image, showing up to the Kids' Choice Awards looking like this, before making the announcement that he'd been doing HRT for approximately 2 months, which according to a quick Google search is the medical process for changing genders. Chris would—
Which, according to a quick Google search, is the medical Okay, so he didn't even know what HRT was. He had to Google it. He had to Google what HRT was. Yeah.
Expand on this by stating, "Informed consent HRT saved my and many others' lives.
True.
The hurdles GNC people have to jump through to get life-saving gender-affirming healthcare in a first-world country is wild to me. Just let people make informed decisions about their own bodies," which received a positive response from both Carl and Mr. Beast, who wrote, "Got you, I did one more heart than..."
Let me give a Mr. Beast face really fast. Yeah, pretty based. Pretty fucking based. Pretty based.
Carl because I'm a better friend. While his co-workers expressed positivity, others weren't so welcoming. There goes a father figure the kid won't ever be able to look up to. Hard times create strong men create—
I like how he says, most comments weren't so forgiving though. And then it shows a clip of somebody doing the fucking Nazi quote that the Nazis love. The hard times create strong men create good times create weak men, and weak men create hard times meme. We really are back in 2016.
Good times create weak men, and weak men create hard times. Weak man times. Chris responded to this comment by stating, "This is just more dog whistling that somehow trans and GNC folks aren't safe around kids. Tucker begs for me to come back when I leave for like 2 days to film. He is so loved and happy. Kids aren't born with hate, it's taught by people like you,
True.
And my child will only know love. I know I'm going to be a great parent, and so is every other person who puts the love of their child before everything. I made this decision because I wanted to show up as my best and happiest self for him. In a way, this was for Tucker." Chris's response received some positivity such as, "I'm convinced you're an amazing father."
It received some positivity. Like, it has to be like, all of these objectively positive things have to be framed in the most negative way they possibly can be.
Tucker is lucky to have you, and also lucky to have all of those who surround and support you in his life. As well as, I adore that, I'm glad you made that decision. It's so much easier to be a parental figure when you're not struggling with dysphoria, yet he'd also receive an
Probably.
equal amount of backlash. You ripped apart
Jesus.
your family and took a father figure away from your son just so you could paint your nails and act zesty. Pathetic. He will get torn apart at school, won't want to have friends around his house. A life full of difference and being alone. Must have missed the point in that.
I like how most of these arguments for why the kid's gonna have a bad life for having a trans parent is because we're gonna make sure your kid has a bad life for having a trans parent. We transphobes are gonna ensure that your kid has a bad life for having a trans parental figure, so don't be trans or your kid's gonna have a bad life and we're gonna make sure of it. You know, it's like, you're such a bad person for ensuring we're gonna make your kid's life a living hell by living your best life. Like, that's literally what they're arguing.
Tweet. How's this for him when you're depriving him of a father figure? Although Chris wasn't altered by...
Yeah, these people, like, live and die on the idea that, like, anybody who doesn't have, like, a father figure, quote unquote, will, like, grow up to be very maladjusted. And there's certainly cases where that happens, I won't lie, but, like, I think there's also plenty of cases where kids grow up without a father figure and they're fine.
These comments, as he'd once again reiterate his certainty in a new post reading, "It's never too late to start being yourself," which received praise from Mr. Beast as well as Nolan and Carl. However, these comments also added extra fuel to the fire. In a few years, look back at this thread and remember they were never your friends. Only yes men cowards. Hope you come out of this safe. Mr. Beast responded to this with a simple opinion irrelevant ratio.
Dude, Mr. Beast is fucking based. How have I not noticed this man fighting on the fucking front lines? Bro's been arguing with transphobes for like over a month. How have I not noticed? I would have been liking and retweeting Mr. Beast's tweets dunking on transphobes. He's been doing this for a little while. How'd I not notice?
To which the original commenter would state, "I have 30 followers, so go ahead and ratio me. I'll still rest easy knowing..."
I didn't realize at first this person's a paid checkmark. I love how this 30 follower account, like, you see the checkmark and you still think, oh, okay, this person must be like a somebody, right? Like they're like maybe, you know, 50,000 followers or more, you know, maybe some streamer, content creator, someone who's like relevant. Oh no, they just had $8.
That I'm not a coward who idly sits by watching my friend ruin his own life. In some ways, it was nice to see the boys standing up for Chris on Twitter. However, the situation has already begun to change the dynamic within the videos. For example, in a recent livestream titled "Opening 1,000 Mystery Art Boxes," Chris would once again dress in quite a feminine way, and while everybody participated as usual, the energy and vibe didn't feel nearly as smooth as it normally does. It felt...
So... transphobia or being trans is bad because being out and trans will get you a lot of hate online. Is this video from before the like button got removed? Okay, so to be fair, dislikes got removed from YouTube, so to dislike videos, you have to get the dislike add-on, and most people who go out of their way to get the dislike add-on are more likely to be right-wing. Like, the only people I ever see complaining about the dislikes getting removed for the most part these days. Yeah, it was used to help make sure that, like, tutorial videos weren't scams, but honestly, I haven't seen people complain about that actually ending up being a problem. The thing that people mostly complain about is, like, you get drama YouTubers and, like, edgelord commentary types who complain about it, and then, like, Nazis who are mad that, like, you can't mass dislike lefty videos anymore publicly. And so they made like a add-on that you can download to bring dislikes back, but you have to have the add-on to see it. So it's like everybody got, like, who has the add-on can hit the dislike button and like see those dislikes. So all those dislikes are likely from people who are pretty right-leaning, who went out of their way to get an add-on to go dislike a video with a trans person in it. Which, obviously, if you're selecting for people who are going to have that add-on, yeah, it's most likely going to be people who don't like minorities. They got the add-on to go dislike bomb people online they don't like. You know, it's usually minorities that get dislike bombed online these days. Holy shit, tutorial spam / misinfo is fucking crazy right now. Just look at Troom's fucking views. No, I don't really think I see a lot of, like, spam misinfo tutorial videos, like, when I search for things as much. I mean, maybe it's a bigger problem, but, like, the likes and dislikes still exist. They're just not public. It still affects, like, the recommendability of the videos. Millions per video. Let's check on that. I want to see that. This is just, like, well, they're not really getting millions of views per video. Most of them are... one of them got a couple million views. Most of them are getting, like, tens of thousands of views per video, not millions. But, like... guys, this isn't the YouTube dislike buttons issue. This is YouTube right now refusing to apply their TOS. YouTube isn't taking down channels for spam, hate speech, misinformation, or anything like that unless they're small. If you're a big enough channel and you bring in enough views, YouTube will not penalize you for even some of the most blatant breakings of TOS. They're desperately trying to make more money right now. It's why Matt Walsh can go on Hitler speeches about wanting to exterminate trans people in every video that gets millions of views, and no matter how much you report them, YouTube won't do anything. But if you upload a video with Matt Walsh in your thumbnail, it'll get demonetized for hateful content. You know that, right? If I upload a video with Matt Walsh in the thumbnail, I get my video demonetized for hateful content. Matt Walsh's videos are fully monetized, get millions of views, and no matter how much you report them, nothing happens. There are specific systems set up behind the scenes to protect large channels that break TOS from being automatically penalized by the algorithm now. It does not apply to smaller content creators, who are constantly... who are generally by default left-leaning because the right has more of a platform, but also who are constantly getting false striked and false demonetized for covering the content that YouTube is platforming to millions of people and monetizing from right-wing figures. Most of my videos covering like conservative, like far-right channels that are really big get demonetized for the content I'm reacting to. But the original videos has millions of views, is monetized, running ads, and all of that. YouTube knows Matt Walsh is evil, but won't do anything about it. And guess what? In June, guess what YouTube's going to do in June this year? Well, Matt Walsh this June is going to be doing probably the most blatant, like, genocidal rhetoric towards the LGBT community this June during Pride Month. And YouTube is going to make their logo a pride flag and talk about how much they care about LGBT creators on their Twitter for a whole month. Are you excited to see YouTube, after a year of platforming Matt Walsh's genocidal rhetoric towards LGBT people for years now, to millions of people? Are you excited for them to do their rainbow capitalist logo thing this year?
As though there was an unaddressed
I'm excited to literally see Matt Walsh going on like a Hitler-esque speech about exterminating transgenderism while the logo on the top left of the screen is a rainbow. Like, that'll be peak YouTube rainbow capitalism, is watching a Matt Walsh video in Pride Month where he's talking about how all LGBT people are groomers and something needs to be done about them, while YouTube has the logo as like a pride flag on the top left. Just peak rainbow capitalism, dude.
Elephant in the room, and therefore everybody was in their head as opposed to being in the present moment enjoying each other's company. Maybe everybody was simply too busy opening packages, but Chris did make these bizarre jokes about Jimmy being female, making him incredibly uncomfortable.
Oh my god, Jimmy, look, they drew you. Jimmy, they drew you so well. It looks just like you.
Oh, yes.
Oh my god, it's Jimmy.
How did fan art? This is what we were looking for.
He's trying to cut this together like Jimmy looks awkward, but he's just acting normal. Wait, this is exactly how Mr. Beast acts normally. Wait, he laughed. He's like, this guy's trying so hard to make this clip look awkward, but this is just every Mr. Beast video.
Be brave, be honest, be kind, Mr. Beast. That is my tagline.
Becoming even weirder when each member started to pay each other compliments.
Hey, nice shirt. Thanks, dude, nice shirt.
Hey, nice shirt.
Thanks, dude, nice shirt.
Thanks. Nice shirt.
This is literally, oh my god. Wait. This is literally like straight out of any Mr. Beast video. This is the kind of like goofing off they do. What? Just parasocially overanalyzing everything? It's not even parasocial, because someone who has a parasocial relationship with Mr. Beast would know this is like completely normal for his videos. Like, this is how he talks to his friends.
Shirt, nice shoes.
For the most part, the live stream was devoid of awkward moments. However, it would act as fodder for another 100 million views worth of drama and criticism. Chris likely believes that people will slowly adapt to his new appearance over time, but is this really going to happen? Well,
remember, like, SunnyV2 hasn't even mentioned that Chris is transgender here in the entire video. This is all, like, under the sort of, like, presupposition that this is all like a business move or a lifestyle move, not something that this person's doing to make themselves happier, like, that is like provably shown to make trans people happier.
Maybe. It's difficult to say as the situation is fairly unique, especially when considering Chris's reputation and influence. However,
it's not very unique. There's a lot of trans people out there. I'm pretty sure if you took all the trans people on Earth and put them into one country, it would be a pretty fucking seriously populated country.
If Chris continues to transition, would it be unreasonable to say that he could jeopardize some of the personality traits which made him a successful member in the first place? Perhaps the opposite will happen, and he'll instead pick up new personality traits that better resonate
their personality traits
with the current MrBeast audience. This was put forward in many comments supportive of Chris, who implied that there'll be millions of queer kids who look up to him, although this doesn't necessarily mean that it'll add any value to the videos. MrBeast
All right, this is the part that I do know about. This is the part of this video that I do know about. So remember, guys, this guy judges any person's morality, if they're a content creator, on how well their channel is doing. Negative response means they are morally in the wrong, in his mind. Not doing well on YouTube makes you a bad person in this guy's view.
MrBeast has likely cultivated a massive LGBT audience, all of whom are already watching anyway, and if we've learned anything from Hollywood in recent years, it's that adding over-the-top LGBT characters for the sake of relatability rarely works as intended, and
to him, Chris Tyson is a character, not a person who's living their life and doing what they want to do to be happy, and just doing their thing. An over-the-top LGBT character. So do you guys see how, like why I'm so, dead set on calling out the stupid, go woke, go broke mindset? Because it leads to shit like this, where people become unironically convinced that someone being trans is like a woke business move. Just someone living their lives, coming out as trans, just a random person, must be a woke business move like Hollywood's doing to ruin all your favorite media. That must be what's happening here. Oh, my best friend came out as trans. Why are they going woke for the woke money? Go woke, go broke. You know, like that. That's what these people think.
Is often nothing more than a distraction from the premise of the movie or video.
Also, MrBeast has gained 6 million subscribers this month. As loud and angry and fervent as transphobia is, online especially, it is not overwhelming. Like, it is not, or sorry, it is overwhelming. It doesn't outnumber the amount of people who either just don't care, like, just live your life, or are openly pro-trans. The people who are transphobic live to be transphobic. The reason why transphobia seems to be everywhere you look right now is because transphobes literally can't stop thinking about trans people. Everywhere they look, they see trans propaganda, so they feel the need to tweet or post or make a video about how transgenderism is ruining society. Trans people live in their heads rent-free. They can never, ever stop thinking or talking about them. So when you start, behaving that way overtly, it looks cringe and ridiculous. People start to call you out. Most people just don't care that much. Most people who are even, iffy on trans people are just iffy, but don't care enough to focus on transphobic stuff as much as these people do.
On top of this, it can be uncomfortable and unrelatable for the silent majority, although as we have seen,
these people desperately, they oftentimes call themselves the silent majority when they are in fact the loud minority, the transphobes are. They are not the silent majority. They are in fact, if they were the silent majority, they'd shut the f up every once in a while. They don't. They are clearly the loud minority.
A situation like Chris's does have the potential to create an otherworldly amount of discussion, which could be seen as a benefit for the MrBeast brand.
Drama is good for growth, 100%. That would be an easy way to up my
So
views
you're
if
a
I got
Keemstar
it.
The problem is this type of situation is probably the last thing that MrBeast wants to attract, as he's forced to agree with Chris's position, as he has no way of manipulating the situation without being painted as the bad guy.
Wait, he has no way to manipulate the situation without being painted as the bad guy in a hypothetical where MrBeast is either, stops being friends with this person for being trans or forces them to stop being trans? Chris's position. Yeah. Remember, guys, he's got to pretend like he's the super extra centrist guy, and being trans is like a massive radical left-wing thing that the left is forcing on everybody. But in reality, this is him forcing his values onto just a random person most people like.
It's a lose-lose situation for Mr. Beast. I think Jimmy is in an inescapable situation. If he kicks out Chris, cancelled. If he don't, his channel will die for real.
Mr. Beast is in an inescapable situation by being friends with a trans person. If he kicks out the trans person, he'll get cancelled by the left. But if he doesn't, his channel will die because trans people, I guess, ruin everything that they're in. They really do wish that any of this bullshit they're spouting was real, but it's not, and it never will be. And a lot of these people are very young and are going to realize that eventually, and the rest are going to, like, get older, and their transphobia is going to leave them behind.
An inescapable situation is a pretty good way of describing the drama, which is also why it deserves the harsh label.
Yeah, the right is also, like, very openly participating in cancel culture here, against one of the most beloved and well-liked YouTubers that like is out there. So like the whole like cancel culture thing, the hysteria around cancel culture, is what jettisoned the right's current age of cultural dominance to where it is now. Now that the right are the ones who are overtly pushing for actual cancel culture, and they're the ones who actually have the ability and have the desire to cancel people, people are noticing it. People are noticing it.
Of being a nightmare. Jimmy has no option but to publicly express acceptance of Chris's transition, as silence or even worse, disapproval would come with obvious severe repercussions. However...
Okay, well at least he acknowledges Chris is trans now, so he's saying that like Mr. Beast isn't actually pro-trans, he's just in a rock and a hard place because he can't stop being friends with Chris because that'll get him canceled. But if he keeps Chris around, then the LGBT pandering, I guess, will ruin his content. So Mr. Beast is doomed, I guess is the thesis.
In accepting Chris's transition, Jimmy implies that this will be the new normal within the content, thus annoying a different group of people, many of whom will never express their true feelings, and may rather simply click on fewer Mr. Beast videos.
Mr. Beast gained 6 million subs in this month.
If this is the case, Jimmy has no option but to accept this fate, as removing Chris from the videos in
has no option but to accept this fate, dude. Dude, he really thought this was going to go up on YouTube and have an overwhelmingly positive response. He really did.
Any kind of way could create an even more severe media firestorm. The only clean solution, should things go south, might be for Chris to resign himself, and even then rumors and bad press will be unavoidable.
Chris is selfish if they don't retire to save Mr. Beast's career. They're so desperate. They're so desperate to pull an anti-trans propaganda win from this event. They're so scared that the largest YouTuber is going to be openly pro-trans. I don't think you guys realize how, like, scary that is if you're a transphobe. Like, think about it. Think about it from the perspective of a transphobe. You realize that your ability to to push your will onto trans people is getting weaker day by day. More and more Gen Z is like getting to voting age. They're overwhelmingly more progressive and left-leaning in Democrat voting than millennials and Gen X. Like, the Republicans are dying out faster, or even at the same rate, as new, young Gen Z Democrat voters are aging in. Republicans are even open with the fact that they know their time is short insofar as how long are they going to be able to be open about wanting to genocide trans people. Right now, trans people aren't as broadly accepted as gay people. You can tell because of someone like Posey Parker, for example, the TERF lady, was openly saying the things she says about trans people, about gay and lesbian people. Not a single media outlet, like mainstream media outlet, wouldn't be calling her a homophobic bigot. But because she claims to be a feminist who's going against men cosplaying as women, and it's trans people, a broadly less accepted group than like gay and lesbian people in like the West right now, it's still broadly pretty acceptable to disagree with the lifestyle of trans people in a way that it is not acceptable to disagree with the lifestyle of gay people. They call it a lifestyle, just like they called being gay a lifestyle. It's the same thing. Like, the same events are just repeating themselves. A group of people who were previously had their, like, ability to be seen and have civil rights and all that pushed back in the cultural, like, eye, is now finally getting their turn at the bat, and the same shit is being thrown at them again, as was thrown at many other marginalized groups that have tried to gain equality before. The right knows that trans acceptance is headed in the same direction as acceptance of every minority that has, like, been discussed and had a civil rights, like, push in American history. They know that pretty soon they will lose their jobs for being transphobic. They will lose massive amounts of friendships for being transphobic, and they will lose family over being transphobic. They are desperately trying to make a last attempt to normalize transphobia and even exterminate trans people through like their fascist power grab before enough of our society is so overwhelmingly pro-trans that none of these figures can even make a living off of transphobic rhetoric anymore. They know their time is short. That is why they are being so open right now. Because 3, 4, maybe even 5 years from now, the people are saying about trans people now isn't going to fly. Clip me right now. The people are saying about trans people now will not fly in 3 years. It just won't. These people have put up a smokescreen of transphobia and hate towards LGBT people being popular and culturally acceptable. It's not. It's an internet culture smokescreen. Most people are not that concerned about what trans people are up to.
Avoidable. Whether it be arrogance or ignorance, Chris seems oblivious to how this whole thing might impact Jimmy, forgetting that he achieved his current level of success by avoiding this exact type of drama.
This guy's channel is really just one of the most dog shit out there. He's got, like, the painted, like, sort of fancy painting profile picture and the fake British accent to come off as, like, intelligent and high class as possible. Really is like literally the Sargon of Akkad of YouTube commentary. Unironically. I'm so happy to see so much of Twitter, including Mr. Beast, overtly dunking on it. I've even seen a lot of the drama YouTubers who just days ago were kind of like semi on board with the transphobia bandwagon against Chris Tyson, calling out this video because this video made the transphobic position against Mr. Beast and Chris Tyson look so bad. I've seen people who 2 days ago were tweeting transphobic stuff about Chris Tyson, now defending Chris because this video was so bad, it pushed them away from their previous position. Sometimes the right pushes people left for us, and I think that's kind of nice.